Hello everyone, welcome back to this Voiceflow tutorial. In the previous video we learned how to use the carousel step, and in that video what we did was that we created variables for the images that we loaded on the carousels, and we basically read those images from a Supabase database. Right, we read the links to those images from a Supabase database and then just implemented them on the carousel. Right. However, a very good question came from a couple of you, and one person asked, okay, how would you implement this for 10,000 images, right, or 1,000 images? How would this be done? You obviously cannot create variables, 10,000 variables or 1,000 variables, right? That would be inefficient and just silly. And that is a very good question. And the simple answer to that right off the bat right now is just pagination, right? You implement pagination. Now, pagination is usually implemented in databases or database APIs. Right. Luckily for us, we don't have to implement anything like that. We just simply need to use Supabase, the pagination that comes Supabase database. Right. So yeah, that is what we would be doing in this video, and we'll see how that works. In case you don't know what pagination is, you'll see how that works in a moment. Right. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay, so let me show you the database or the database table we'll be using for this video. That is here. Yep. Okay, so here's the table. I've already preloaded this table with images, right? So the images are from this really cool website, picsum, right? So if you let me just copy this, right, so that you can see. So it's like a free API basically with images in them, right? So if I paste this, yeah, so you can see it pops up an image. So this can be easily loaded on Voiceflow, right, on Voiceflow's carousel. So back to the database. So now all I just need to do is to connect to this database, and then we can start doing what we need to do. So all these here can just be our various fields, right, that we would use in the carousels. Okay, just wanted to show you this. Now let's go back to Voiceflow. Okay, great. So let's create a new project. Yeah, I love the new interface, by the way, by Voiceflow. Now you can quickly create all these agents, right? And yeah, it's pretty cool. Anyways, that's not what we're here for. So let's create a new project. So we can just call this say dynamic carousel, I guess, and then start from scratch. Okay, as usual, get rid of this. Great. So now the first thing I would like to show is how to connect to the database, right? So we come here, grab our API step, right? So we're gonna get information from database. So let's use the get API step. Next, what we need is we need the the API docs. Yep. So the API docs. Once you're in the API docs, so the table I'm looking for is the images table. So yeah, so now we're good. I need to switch this to bash as well. Now scroll all the way down, you can see read rows. So this allows you to read the rows you want. So you say select star, so that allows you to read all the information in the database table, right? But what we want is that we want to be able to read only a certain number. That's what they call pagination, right? So we want to read only 10 images from the table at a time, right? So that's the pagination. So you've paginated your entire database table, right? So what you can use is this right here, right? So it's still the same select star, but this time you would pass a header for range to be 0 to 9, right? So let's copy this URL. And then let me go back here, and then paste this here, right? So the headers that we would be using, the first one is authorization, right? So the authorization is simply bearer, right? And then your token, right? So the token that connects to your database. So let me just open this in a new tab, and then so what we can just do is to come here and come to the API docs and then go to API settings, right? So that we can get the API key. Just copy this, and then that's your bearer. Then that's one. Then another header you need is API key, right? And then you can just drop the same token that you copied, right? And then yeah, so let's test if this works, right? This should return, I have 100 rows of data in the table, so this should return all 100. Great. So if you scroll all the way down, yep, it returns 0 to 99. That is 100. Awesome. So now let's test out the pagination portion, which is here. We just come here and say range, right? And then we come here and say 0 to 9, just like in the documentation that we saw, right? So if I send this now, you can see it returns just 9 rows of data. Great. So we can, if you look at this, right, it returns image 1 to image 10, right? Those are 10 rows of data. But what if you want to do maybe image 11 to image 20? You just come down here and then change this 11 to 20 and then hit send. So if you look at this, starts from, oh, okay, I was meant to have put from 10 to 19 actually. So 10 to 19, yep, then send. Great, so now you have 11 to 20, right? So that's how that works, right? And if you want, it doesn't have to be in groups of 10. It could also be, 10 to 15, and you'll have 11 to 16, right? So that's how that works. Now, the trick to implementing a sort of dynamic carousel is manipulating this range header, right? So we will create a variable for this 10 and a variable for this 15. So we would always, so whenever a user wants to see more information, we will just direct that user using the variables we create for this range header, right? So that's what we're going to be doing, and that's how we'll solve the problem basically. Okay, so now I think this is a good enough starting point for us to begin the implementation of this simple solution. In the next video, we would explore actually creating the solution. It's very simple, it's very quick, right? So thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video.